Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, esteemed speakers, organizers, colleagues, and all the participants from across the world. I welcome you all to one another IPA webinar on preventing childhood-led poisoning. So let's look into the instructions of the webinar. If you have questions for the speakers, kindly put them in the Q&A feature, which is available in the below tab of the screen. To receive the certificate of attendance, participants must attend the entire duration of the webinar and complete the feedback form. The feedback form will be available once the webinar ends through a give feedback option that would appear upon closing the session on the screen. Please note that the Zoom closed captions are generated by AI and there may be instances where the translations are incorrect or misleading. We appreciate your understanding. Now it's my pleasure to welcome our moderator, Dr. Ruth Edsel. Dr. Ruth A. Edsel, MD, PhD, is the coordinator of the Environment and Childhood Disease Subgroup and is a pediatrician and epidemiologist and former WHO senior officer and founding editor of Pediatric Environmental Health. She has received top honors including the US EPA Children's Environmental Health Champion Award and the US Public Health Service Distinguished Service Medal. I welcome you, Dr. Ruth Edsel. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the International Pediatric Association, which for more than 20 years has had a very active group promoting pediatrician involvement in environmental health and climate change. And for the last 12 years, we've actively promoted our work on preventing childhood lead poisoning during the International Lead Poisoning Prevention Week. So it is my distinct honor today to introduce the president of the International Pediatric Association. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And that president is Professor Joseph Haddad, and he will share with us some opening remarks. Next slide, please. Let me tell you about Professor Haddad. He's a distinguished professor of neonatology and was elected the president of the International Pediatric Association beginning his term last year. He's a pediatric leader who has dedicated his career to improving neonatal and child health globally through advocacy, education, and international collaboration. And he's been a strong supporter of the IPA's involvement in issues related to climate change and environmental health. So it is with great pleasure that I welcome Professor Haddad for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Ruth. It is for me also an honor to be on this distinguished panel of speakers, including Ramesh, Stella Marie, Best, and certainly, and of course, and sure, Ruth. Ruth, I really appreciate your input in the IPA since many, many years, and I really count on you and your group to boost a lot the informations and the impact of environment on child health. Lead poisoning is one of the most important impact factor on morbidity and mortality in our children and infant and also in the human beings. So I welcome you all to this wonderful meeting, webinar. Hope it will be very informative. And thank you very much. And I leave now the floor to all of you. Thank you. Over to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Professor Haddad, for joining us from your busy schedule in Cairo and for taking time to welcome. We greatly appreciate your leadership and will continue to follow your direction as we move forward during your presidency.
Okay, now let's welcome our next moderator, Dr. Stella Maris Gill. Dr. Stella Maris Gill from Argentina is a pediatrician and university professor at the Faculty of Medicine, University of Buenos Aires. She formerly led the Pediatric Environmental Unit at Pedro de Elizalde Children's Hospital and served as president of the Argentina Pediatric Society. Currently, she is the vice president of ELAPE and a member of both ELAPE's Committee on Prevention of Non-Communicable Diseases and the IP Environment and Childhood Diseases Subgroup. I welcome you, Dr. Stella Maris.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Well, good morning, good noon, and evening for all the colleagues that are watching us now from all over the world. Thank you very much for the presentation, for the introduction. I'm really delighted and very grateful to be part of IPA webinar, this IPA webinar during the International Lead Poisoning Prevention Week 2025. I have to say that in Latin America, as in other regions, this is also a very concerning issue because millions of children have their development impaired and face a future of disability due chronic and silent lead exposure, even at minimal levels during pregnancy. It's a great honor for me to welcome and introduce Professor Ramesh Bajani. Professor Bajani is Vice President of West Zone CIAP 2025, Diplomat in Environment and Child Health, IPA, Chairperson of Environment and Child Health Chapter in CIAP 2021 to 23, Secretary 2019 to 21, and Executive Board Member of CIAP 2022 to 24, Member of ICP Evaluation Committee 2024, Joint Coordinator of ILEAP module, Member in Antimicrobial Awareness Week 2022, and member in SAG on Environment, Child Health and Climate Change in IPA 2021 to 2023. Well, let me give the floor to Dr. Ramesh. Go ahead, Dr. Ramesh, please, and thank you very much.
Should I start?
Yes, Dr.
Yes. So I'm visible? My screen is visible now?
Yes, we
Yes.
see it.
Yes, yes.
So hello everyone, respected seniors and dear friends across the globe. I'll be speaking on preventing childhood lead poisoning. The objective would be to develop a differential diagnosis, define the components of an exposure, explain the role of public health, roles for government, and learning objectives. As a clinicians, we come across such type of patients. A 4-year-old male child presented to the pediatric emergency department with severe pain in abdomen associated with fatigue, aches in muscles and joints and constipation. No history of taken outside food. So generally this type of scenario, we would like to know in history whether there was a fever or not. It was not there. No abdominal distension, no vomiting. So practically it rules out current infectious etiology. The duration of constipation is since last 1 year and recurrent history of abdominal pain is there. There is a history of pica with ingestion of flaking paint and pencil lids. In family history, yes, other members also they suffer. On physical examination, the temperature is 37, pulse is 120, respiratory rate is 18, blood pressure is 90/70. On physical examination, child was tired, pale, no dehydration, abdomen was soft, no pus palpable. So in such type of situation, generally DD would be restricted to either ADHD, ID or lead toxicity. In investigation, sonography was normal. Abdominal plane radiography showed multiple intracolic metallic plaques, hypochromic microcytic anemia. HB was 7.5 gram, total count was 13,000, platelet was 2.3 lakhs. Plasma electrolytes and liver function tests were normal. Peripheral smear showed basophilic inclusion in erythrocytes, and elevated BLL confirmed the diagnosis. ZPP level was elevated, RFT was normal, and there was no clear metaphyseal bands on tibial radiographies. In environment health history, generally we would like to know the history related to child's environment, the dietetic history of child, occupational history of father. Like here, father is a painter and paints while at home, and plus leftover paint is kept inside the home. This was the X-ray revealing the intestinal flex. In exposure history, one has to elicit. Here there was no known exposure. Family has only one child, and no one was else was in. And is there any exposure that is not recognized? So no, in this case. Obviously, there is no history of any infectious agent. In work history, patient is in primary school, so there is no question of working. In environment history, the estimation of lead in potable water used by this family, and coincidentally child had dust allergy history also. So public health department was involved by calling them, and the Ministry of Health field epidemiology training program, they do the investigations. Simultaneously, the treatment with lactulose-based laxative, it lifted the constipation and allowed disappearance of abdominal pain. Inhalation therapy might be indicated for children with a high blood level of 45 microgram per DL or greater, but it has a very debatable role. So the possible governmental actions at local and federal level would be that the government should assess a lead level in the drinking water and Ayurvedic medicine or cosmetics if they are using. And what can doctor, like as a pediatrician, we can do? We can impart health education. We should take proper environmental history in the beginning itself. So as we know, from 19 to 25th October 2025, this year, every year we celebrate International Lead Poisoning Prevention Week. And this time the theme is so apt that there is no safe level. Act now to end lead exposure. So looking to the history part, the direct consequence of lead's increasing use, but the first reported case was in Queensland, Australia by Gibson and Turner in 1905. At that time, children playing on lead-painted verandas ingested paint chips and contaminated dust. At that time, lead-based paint was a new product. It was in thing, and the advertising, etc., I mean, it gave such a hype. Initially, it was regarded as an acute disease. It was thought that a child either died or recovered fully. But we have seen consequences of lead's wise use in the 20th century. There is a broad environmental dissemination and exposure of vulnerable populations beyond the workplace, children in particular. As we are custodian of children's health, we should know that young children are more likely to have elevated VLLs because difference in the absorption from the gastrointestinal tract and age-appropriate exploration of their environment, plus the diet low in calcium and iron increases the lead gut absorption. The blood-brain barrier is incomplete, so that more readily permits the entry of lead into the developing nervous system. Children usually have increased exposures per kilogram of body weight compared to adults. And children's behavior such as hand to mouth, hand object behavior make them more susceptible. The important thing is that children, they are in a phase of dynamic growth and development, unlike adults. So that puts them at an increased risk from environmental toxicants. Moreover, they breathe more air, drink more water, eat more food per pound of body weight than adults. So they are more vulnerable. And moreover, disparities exist by race, ethnicity, and income. So the children living at or below the poverty line who live in older houses, they are at greater risk of lead exposure. Plus, as I said, the paint, dust, soil, drinking water, folk remedies, especially in South Asian countries, spices, cosmetics, and religious powder, old ceramic pottery, cookware, imported toys, crayons. We'll see it later on. Now, many things affect how a child's body handles exposure to lead. It depends on child's age. Younger the child, more vulnerable. Nutritional status, we all know that malnourished children are more likely to have higher BLL. Sources of lead exposure, if it is for a longer time, so length of time also affect. If it is an acute source, that also is detrimental. And presence of other underlying health conditions like comorbidities. It depends on other factors of host also, if they have a habit of pica or this thing, or if they are already malnourished or suffering from iron deficiency anemia, or developmentally neurodivergent children, they are obviously more susceptible. So UNICEF, in association with Pure Earth, they came out with a very revealing report, The Toxic Truth. Children's exposure to lead pollution undermines a generation of future potential. So it revealed that around 1 in 3 children, up to 800 million globally, has BLL at or above 5 micrograms per deciliter. South Asia accounts for about 400 million cases, so practically half the cases. And India alone contributes to more than 275 million. It was a first of its kind. This report has said that BLL in the blood of the affected children were at or above 5 microgram per deciliter. But as we know now, there is no safe level. And this shows the children's average blood lead levels by country in 2019. The darker side, that is 15 microgram per DL, is prevalent in this part of the world. We all know that lead is toxic and it damages practically all the organs. Young children are, as I said, more vulnerable. In adults also, it produces ischemic heart disease, stroke, etc. But important thing is that in pregnant women, the lead exposure damages many organs, but also affects the developing fetus. There are various routes by which the lead exposure can occur. It could be through inhalation of particles released by industry or recycling, or ingestion of contaminated soil or dust from decaying lead paint, particularly when children they play on the ground. Or it could be lead containing products like such as lead glazed ceramics and some traditional medicines or cosmetics, or already contaminated food or water like fish also. If we look at Indian scenario, then the 23 states with high blood lead levels have been mentioned. The names of only top 15 are publicly available, because in remaining 13 states and union territories, that cannot be determined, as there is a lack of research and screening mechanisms to collect data. And here there are occupational sources as well as non-occupational sources. This was a scenario of lead smelting in 1980s. In the past 100 years, global lead consumption has exceeded that of all previous eras. This is alarming. Increase mining and smelting, because introduction of mechanized mining was in late 1800. Then came lead based paint, used since late 1800, banned in many nations. But still, as we know, in some countries, including India, substandard companies are rampant. Lead in gasoline use began in 1920s and spread worldwide, including India. It ended in 2021. And industrial uses, batteries, radiation shielding, etc. Plus household uses like lead paint, pipes and plumbing fixtures, spices, etc. As we know from this image, that it affects practically each and every part of the body. But the important is that the stunting because of decreased bone and muscular growth is something which we miss. This is a very, very important slide. This purple part shows childhood lead poisoning and effects like learning disabilities, hyperactivity, speech disorders, childhood delinquency, reduced IQ, crime in adulthood, behavioral disorders, and health problems. And going forward, same child, there is a significant cost to child's future in form of academic failure, learning difficulties, lack of employment, lifelong health problems, criminal record, socialization problems, and ultimately it is a loss to the nation in form of increased healthcare, joblessness, special education, juvenile justice, etc. In clinical effects, if it is more than 40 microgram per DL, then the effects are severe like headache, abdominal pain, or loss of appetite or constipation. Children displaying clumsiness, agitation, or decreased activity and somnolence, it suggests CNS involvement. So practically any child, if you find that suffering from IDA or ADHD-like symptoms, one must think of other possibilities like higher BLL rather than ADHD. Once you rule out, then you go to the diagnosis of ADHD. Then lead poisoning should be treated as an emergency. Peripheral neuropathy and renal diseases, they are rare in children. And as I said, acceptable BLL is nil, right? It should not be there, less than one practically. Half of all children in low and lower middle income countries have elevated BLL. And new research finds that these could account for more than 20% of the learning gap between children in rich and poor countries. This is significant. Lead exposure creates at least a $1 trillion drag on the global economy. And this is something alarming. Intergenerational effects is also there because maternal bone lead is mobilized during pregnancy. It crosses the placenta and injures the developing brain. If we go for lead exposure and its cost, then initial findings of Banks research shows that lead poisoning, particularly the impact on children's IQ, is a severe developmental issue with a GDP loss of 2.2% from cognitive underdevelopment. And the total global cost of lead exposure is significant. That is the cost of IQ loss as well as cardiovascular disease mortality. There are global programs to remove lead from petrol. WHO and UNEP organized the Partnership for Clean Fuels and Vehicles program in 2002. It's a global success story, and leaded gasoline is now banned for use in road vehicles in every country. Algeria was the last country to do so in 2021, but still it is used in some small propeller planes in the aviation industry. Now, if we go for economically efficient solution, then can be unlocked with investment policy reforms. Suppose, for an example, in Bangladesh, simply eliminating lead additives in turmeric, there was a huge benefit cost ratio. If we look at Indian scenario, then the main contributors are informal and substandard recycling of lead acid batteries because they do it in open. And now, as we know, the electric vehicles are in use. And then they smelt in open air furnaces, producing toxic fumes, putting the larger community around the areas where these operations occur. In a study by Dr. Abbas, it was found that Indian children living at or near lead acid battery recycling workshops have been found to have lead levels up to 190 micrograms per deciliter. The other source important is water, and it was found in one Jodhpur study. The third important source is folk remedies and cosmetics containing lead, because this is used by many households. Gasad, a very popular Indian folk medicine. Sindoor is being worn by women across the subcontinent. But concoctions with extreme concentration most likely had metals intentionally added as part of practice called Rasa Shastra. Ayurvedic practitioners, they say that heavy metals can increase the potency, and these bhasmas are put through complicated process, right? So cosmetics like kohl, surma, they are also rich in lead, and dangerous amounts of lead have also been found in medicines, different medicines. This is a very common practice in this part of world. These are the medicines, in fact, one can find over the counter also. And no one has a good handle on the exact prevalence of use. It is underreported because doctors don't generally ask about this and patients don't report it. The use of folk medicine is rooted in generations, old cultural traditions. And Ayurvedic medicine, for example, originated more than 2000 years ago in India, where 80% of the population uses it. Moreover, culturally, people think that, well, my grandmother did it, so it should not be a problem. And most important, rather, the dangerous thing is that they consider that Ayurvedic medicines are harmless. So it is extremely hard to change cultures and beliefs. And some Ayurvedic preparations have been found to contain heavy metals, lead or mercury, like 100 to 10,000 times greater than accepted level. So these are again few medicines for adults and children. The fourth important source is lead point, and it is a source of lead exposures. Though there are laws since 2015, but still substandard companies are rampant. And many of the companies, they exceed like 46% in one study. They contain more than 10,000 ppm. The spices, all South Asians and Indians are fond of spices like chili powder, garam masala, brand of instant noodles. They have been found to contain high amount of lead. Toys and stationery, of course, important source, particularly those children already having malnutrition or iron deficiency anemia, and if the toy is broken. There are a few studies or relatively small sample size attempted in Indian children, but NFHS, that is National Family Health Survey, was the first to provide information in 1999 below 3 years of age. There were the high level of BLL was found. And these were in one study was in different cities, Delhi, Nagpur, Mumbai, more or less 10 to 18 BLL everywhere it was found. Prevalence was higher in Indian southern and coastal cities, maybe due to presence of high amount of lead containing electronic waste. Now lead poisoning in children can be eradicated. 3 steps are needed. Like primary prevention, launch a national program of primary prevention that screens children's environments for lead. Second is reduce lead hazards. Remove leaded paint from the homes, replace lead pipes, ban lead from spices and medicines, and no new lead. Prevent additional lead from entering our environment, eliminating all non-essential uses of lead. Replacement of the lead acid battery by newer technology is long overdue because now we are entering in a era where people are going for electric vehicles. So we'll have to do for the management of these batteries. Removal of lead will not be inexpensive, and removal is a one-time cost, but the cost is less than the continuing cost of lead poisoning. So to conclude my talk, lead poisoning is invisible. You might have got patients in your OPD, but you don't know whether that hyperactive child could be having high BLL. And it impacts maternal and child health, causing irreversible silent damage to a child's brain development. This is again a very important because it is irreversible. And it is a silent killer of adults also via cardiovascular disease. Treatment for lead poisoning is not a solution. The overwhelming solution is prevention of exposures. So prevention, prevention, and prevention should be the goal. The health sector has a critical role to play by fulfilling its role in protecting health from lead exposure through strategic programs of research, surveillance, and testing. And it's a multi-sectoral approach which will see us through. My profuse thanks to Professor Howard Hu, Professor Philip, Anjali Acharya, Pahle India Foundation, India Working Group on Lead Poisoning. I was a member, participant of that summit also. Thank you so much for patient listening and this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Ramesh. Ruth, please. You are introducing Mr. Abid Solomon.
Next
Dr.
slide,
Ansel.
please.
Ruth ma'am, now you are audible.
Thank
Till
you.
now you were not audible, Ruth ma'am.
Next slide, please. I seem to be having connection problems. Stella, would you please do the introduction?
We can listen to you, ma'am, no problem. You can switch off video.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Stella, I'm having connection problems. Would you please do the introduction?
Okay. Well, I will introduce Mr. Abid Solomon. He's based in New York. Mr. Abid Solomon is UNICEF Senior Advisor for Environment, leading the Healthy Environment for Healthy Children program with 20 or more years at UNICEF across multiple regions. He has worked on child health, education, wash and protection, and led results-based management and innovative monitoring systems. Well, I give you the floor, Mr. David Solomon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stella and Dr. Ruth. I'm going to try share my screen, only to put a disclaimer first that it's very hard to come after Dr. Ramesh because he just does such an extraordinary job. And every time he presents, I learn something new. So thank you for that again, Dr. Ramesh. That was an excellent presentation. Because you've covered a lot, it makes it easier for me and I can be much more briefer. But let me try and get this right in terms of sharing screen. And I guess, here we go. Yeah, I mean, the program I lead in UNICEF New York called Healthy Environments for Healthy Children, we deal with a number of issues. We deal with environmental pollution and how that impacts children's health. We deal with climate change. We also look at built environments as well. But when we talk about environmental pollution, lead always comes to the top. And it is such an issue that we all know about, but it is so solvable. And I think I would start by this little video. I hope you would be able to hear, but let me know if you're not able to hear. Here we go.
1 in 3 children, nearly 800 million, have dangerous levels of lead in their blood. The tragedy isn't just that it happens, it's that it goes unnoticed. Childhood lead poisoning is one of the most widespread, yet unseen crises of our time. Even at low levels, exposure can leave a lifelong mark, damaging a child's brain and causing learning and behavioral problems. Without data, the problem remains hidden. But when countries uncover the truth, change is possible. In 2018, a survey revealed that 41% of Georgia's children had elevated blood lead levels. In some regions, like Ajara, it was as high as 85%.
მოულოდნელი იყო ეს ჩვენთვის ეს ყველაფერი. ნუცას აღმოაჩინდა ტყვია 38 და 2.
Though sources vary, potential threats include contaminated spices, paint, unsafe industrial practices, and consumer goods like toys.
ექნება როცა მითხრას რომ არ შეიძლება პლასმასის სათამაშოები და შემდეგ აღარ მაქვს პლასმასის და დათუნიებით ვთამაშობ და ვერ ვთვლი ხოლმე.
Since the data revealed the scale of the problem, the government has strengthened regulations, surveillance, and laboratory capacity.
შედეგი იყო ძალიან კარგი. ჩამოვიდა 14-ზე ტყვია, მაგრამ უნდა იყოს 5 რომ ნუცა განთავისუფლდეს აი ამ ტყვის შემცველობისგან.
The results speak for themselves. Between 2020 and 2023, blood lead levels in pregnant women in Ajara dropped by nearly 60%. Among children, lead poisoning prevalence fell from around 85% of children in 2018 to just 20%, proof that targeted action by committed leaders drives real change. Sometimes the threat is hidden in plain sight. In Bhutan, a 2023 survey found that more than half the children and nearly 30% of pregnant and breastfeeding women had elevated lead levels. Lead exceeding safe limits was found in traditional medicine, kitchen items, spices and food, toys, soil, and paint. The data sparked action, with Bhutan working to strengthen national policies to build a lead-free future for children. In Ghana, unseen exposure to lead can harm children even before they are born. In some communities, pregnant women eat a baked clay called farin kasa, or ayilo, to ease morning sickness, not knowing it contains lead.
The programs, I'm never make a dilemma.
This lead can cause brain impairment for the fetus. Also, it can cause growth retardation for the baby too.
Ghana is improving regulations, monitoring consumer products, including cosmetics, and raising awareness among health workers and mothers. Lead in children is a slow poison, but it doesn't have to be. What's hidden can be uncovered. With leadership, data, and commitment, progress can be fast. Ending lead poisoning for every child is possible and affordable. Protecting a child from lead costs just 15 cents a year, less than a sip of coffee. It's not a question of cost, it's a question of priority. We have the proof, we have the tools. What's needed now is the will to act. From every country, we can no longer look away. Together, we can end lead poisoning and give every child a lead-free future.
Great, I hope that came through. Yeah, that sort of captures more or less our journey in this space, and I'll present three different topics in my presentations. I'll start with this partnership for lead-free future that we have recently launched, and then I will speak more about UNICEF's work on ending childhood lead poisoning, and then I'll come to the important role of pediatricians, and just the champions we need to drive this agenda forward. So, I mean, you heard it from Dr. before. I mean, the story of lead has been that we've been trying to tackle this source by source, but over the last couple of years, what we have learned is that we cannot deal with this problem just source by source. It will take forever because there's so many sources, and that has changed the conversation and globally. And I think what has changed is this focus on ending childhood lead poisoning, that we need to focus on children, not focusing on the source, but focusing on the child. I think that's the key issue. And for this, at the UNGA of the previous year, I'm talking about 2024, we launched a partnership for a lead-free future, together with three heads of states from Malawi, from Dominican Republic and Nepal, the First Lady of the United States. We all launched the Partnership for Lead-Free Future with a single-minded focus of ending childhood lead poisoning by 2040, with a vision that children grow up in a world free from lead exposure. And essentially, the focus of this partnership that is housed at UNICEF is to really champion country-led efforts to end the widespread lead poisoning. And that means, generation of the plans, the things we heard before, are all the things that need to happen, of course. But this is really to mobilize that leadership that is needed to actually address the issue, as you saw in the video. The partnership is here to support acceleration of the development and adoption of enforcement of lead mitigation standards and policies, and to foster key partnerships between governments, industry, donors, philanthropies, civil society organizations, and so on. The whole idea is, how do we get, by 2040, blood lead levels down to below 5 micrograms per deciliter? That's how we define as ending childhood lead poisoning. Of course, we know that no level of lead in a child's blood is safe, which is no safe level is the focus of this year's ILPPW. But for target setting purposes, being realistic, this is what we establish at the global level, and we really need to be moving fast to address it. This partnership itself comprises of multilaterals. So we have WHO, the UNEP, the World Bank, ADB, a UNICEF part of this partnership that is driving this forward. We also have certain donors from philanthropies like Open Philanthropy, the Bloomberg Philanthropies, that have expressed interest and are investing on the issue. We have governments, we have industry, we have more than 30 governments have signed up, several industry partners are signing up, NGOs are there, several, and then academia. And just to say, for IPA is a member of the PLF, and we'll speak more to that, but you could join and learn more about this partnership at leadfreefuture.org. And on the website, you will find a number of tools, dealing with 12 tools we intend to develop. The first one on understanding childhood lead poisoning and the levels of sources. The third one is about environmental lead exposure, resource control, the country strategy and action plan, how to do that, how to develop a clear communication plan to address lead poisoning, and then how to strengthen legal frameworks. The too late is going to come up, but again, This is something we'll share the links afterwards, but if you go to leadfreefuture.org, you will be able to access all of this. This is what the partners have agreed and put together as the best guidance led by UNICEF in this space at the moment. But these will continue to evolve and develop as we try and tackle this issue. I'll speak more about what UNICEF is doing in our work to end childhood lead poisoning. And you just heard in that video a little bit on the Georgia work, which is where we started to tackle this issue back in 2017, 2018. You also heard about the Bhutan story. Recently, Bhutan completed a survey which found, one of the traditional pills that was being given as a blessing to children to have very high levels of lead. You heard about Ghana. We're working with the Environmental Protection Agency there to test, and we found it on bentonite clay that women eat during pregnancy to have very high levels of lead. So that's what we are on to. That's essentially the focus. But I think the most promising thing and what we have seen as an organization is that this is such a solvable problem. And I think the proof point here is the story of Georgia, where we've been able to, the government of Georgia leading and contribution of UNICEF and other partners in this space has been able to reduce blood lead levels by 60% in just 4 years. So it is possible if you can tackle the major sources and get them out. You can very quickly reduce blood lead levels. It can be done. So we've been working on lead. We are now working in more than 35 plus countries. Majority, it's in incubation stages. We're trying to get the governments to understand what a serious problem this is. A little bit of testing to see, look, we've got high levels, but what these levels mean. And speaking to pediatricians today, I cannot emphasize the role of pediatricians in this space. If pediatricians do not speak on this issue, it's very hard to get policy action. I can say, and pediatricians are not aware of the problem. It's hard to defend why UNICEF is pushing for this, and therefore we really look at IPA as a key partner in this space. This incubation phase that we're talking about, we are trying to get more and more countries to look at the different environmental issues and also look at the issue of lead and try to bring it to the top. We're also working on strengthening capacities. You've heard about local testing and source tracking that I'm speaking to. We're also training health workers, primary healthcare responsive. We're also strengthening surveillance systems. You've seen some actions around that. Plus, we also host PLF. So yeah, I'll keep it brief and not repeat the story. One of the biggest things that we're doing right now is in Bangladesh. As part of the National Household Survey, which is the mix of 2025, we have collected samples of about 9,000 children, about 4 other heavy metals. So that survey results what you mean. The government has agreed to this because when we did a smaller study in 2023. So that has gotten the government into Ghana. We have done testing before. We found 53% children poisoned, and you can see some of the reasons behind it. I've already spoken about Bhutan and also about India. There is work going on in India about trying to strengthen sort of monitoring on this issue and data collection on around biomonitoring of these issues. So there's a lot of studies happening and there are more to happen. But I think this is a key country to address the issue of lead, as we are seeing. I mean, the challenge we have is when you look at countries like Georgia and Bhutan, you never expected almost half the children poisoned, and that's what we're seeing. So where the countries where we know it's a problem, we are very concerned as to what we would find, but there is no way. We have to make the invisible visible, and that's where the action really starts. And there's more work happening in several other countries. So I'll come to the role of pediatricians and sort of, and Dr. Mage already covered it, but essentially we use this acronym called the RISE acronym, which is R, recognize, I, inquire, S, share, and E, empower. And recognize is essentially, the training to recognize the signs of environmental exposures as it concerns lead exposure and identify potential hazards in a child's surroundings. Inquire is all about environmental history taking. Where do you live? What is your source? Is there smoking at home? Where do you work? All of those things that we know are absolutely critical to actually getting to the issue. And then, of course, it's all about prevention, because I think if you look at the WHO clinical guidelines for the management of lead, I think one of the key issues when you find a child with blood lead levels, high blood lead levels, I think one of the primary actions is to remove the source, and because at the lower levels of lead that we're talking about, and that's acute poisoning. The lower levels is essentially vitamin supplementation and iron calcium supplementation and removal of the source. So primary prevention is key, supplementation is key. So again, sharing this knowledge is absolutely important. And I should mention all of this, the work on lead, and I think is the issue about testing. Testing is absolutely key because a lot of the impacts we talk about are subclinical. Acute ones you can see up front, but the subclinical issue is a major one. So I think that is absolutely something to look at, and pediatricians need to demand the lead test, because that's going to push the laboratories to provide that service, which is missing in many countries. Finally, it's about E, which is empower, and that's to inspire action. And that is to equip. I mean, you are the specialists, but they are health workers of all types. We saw this example of a midwife to all types of health workers. And when pediatricians speak about this issue, they mobilize the health system around that. And I think equipping health workers, public and private, talking about the issue of lead, making sure that the health community as a whole understands it, and of course, parents and caregivers understand it. That is something that's absolutely key. And then, of course, where you can, your voice matters. Your articles in local newspapers, you giving talks and highlighting this issue, all of those matters. That's advocacy for policy action. You talking about the cases that have been presented. You talking that you're not able to treat children because of all of this lead poisoning. And we are also speaking to the teachers, the education community as well. I mean, teachers are bearing the brunt of it in their classrooms when children are not learning or are having ADHD issues to speak about this issue. But ultimately, the one that can speak the most knowledgeably about this issue is a pediatrician. And we really count on you for your leadership in this space. That's what would be invaluable. Finally, we have released this course about, I think it was circulated in the IPA as well. Dr. Roos has been leading the dissemination of this for the IPA and other networks as well. I mean, this course is available. It's a WHO and UNICEF course on children's environmental health. It's about 30 hours, and in some countries we're trying to roll this out. It's for health workers in general, and it'll be a skim one for. I mean, you as pediatricians, you could just browse through it, but it covers a lot of the issues around chemicals, whether it's mercury, whether it's POPs, e-waste, pesticides. It covers everything, and climate change as well. So I think that's absolutely a requirement. We have more than 6,000 learners registered across 130 countries. We have 21% that have completed it. We have now launched the Spanish, French, and Russian versions, and we want to take a Chinese version also. The government of China has actually adapted this course and rolled it out nationwide. And we are really looking to see 100,000 health workers completed by 2030, if not more. I want to end with this graphic on the right that you see about no safe blood lead level in children, which is the focus of this International Lead Poisoning Prevention Week. I think that's all I had to say, and would hand up. You could also visit a website called CEH, Children's Environmental Health, ceh.unicef.org. And if there are other topics also beyond lead, if you are interested in, there's a lot of experts that have provided videos as well that may be useful in your day-to-day work. I'll stop here and back to the moderator. Thank you.
Wow, that was really terrific. That was absolutely phenomenal. And thank you to our speakers for those fabulous talks. You know, I'm particularly inspired by this vision that we will eliminate childhood lead poisoning by 2040. I think it's possible, but it will take all of us pediatricians getting on board. And so we actually have some time for discussion because there have been some very interesting things presented today. And I would like to turn it over now to Dr. Stella Hill to moderate our discussion. Stella, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ruth. Well, we have a lot of questions. I will choose some one of them because the time is running. Well, let me see. Mark Engman is without universal screening, you will not prevent childhood lead exposure. You will never know which kids ask the risk or why. Can we do a screening for the children? I think that is a question for Dr. Ramesh.
Yes, please.
Well, it's asking if is it possible to do a screening to the children population.
Yeah, it is possible, but generally the target population would be like suppose in a school, if 2-3 children they are hyperactive or ADHD, and if you investigate and the BLL is high, then we can trace the location of these children, and in these particular localities we can go for screening. During our first roundtable meet on India working the group on lead poisoning, it was proposed by Health Secretary that there are 731 districts in India, and they plan and propose to start a screening and initiating BLL, like what we routinely do hemogram. So his vision is that within next 1 or 2 years, it will be possible. So wherever in short you feel that your child has symptoms or signs which cannot be explained by any particular disease, then you should see your physician, pediatrician, and according to his advice. And more important for our pediatrician colleagues also, that in such type of children, one must always keep the possibility of a high BLL, because 1 out of 2 children practically they have this thing. So if they are subjected to the investigations, like in our part of the India, we have got one National Institute of Occupational Health, NIOH, they do it. And recently during that summit, we had seen that there was a one quick method also by finger prick, which can also determine. But that is a crude estimate. The perfect would be on a good machine. So yes, on a population of children where the symptoms and signs are suggesting. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. And there's another question, because there is a trend of consuming turmeric as a golden nutrient for its anti-inflammatory properties, among other properties. And you can buy it in bulk. including pregnant women, is it safe to consume turmeric? Because some doctors are prescribing turmeric as anti-inflammatory or a golden nutrient for some in some communities. Is it safe
Yeah,
or in
turmeric.
capsules?
Turmeric is absolutely safe. Turmeric is a proven herbal spice. But the problem is where you suspect, like the ladies added to the turmeric to look it more shining. So wherever you feel, wherever you suspect, then that sample should be subjected for testing. And if it is higher, of course, it damages. Otherwise, not all turmeric. So it depends. If you are suspecting, then it should be subjected for analysis.
Okay, thank you. Well, and I have another question for Mr. Abid, because what can we do as pediatrician or health professionals do to motivate our governments to take a real action against lead exposure? Because you show us many actions to do as professionals, as pediatricians, and I am thinking how to motivate governments. What can we do to motivate them to
Yeah,
take action?
sure. Thank you, Dr. Stella, and thank you to the colleague that's raised that question. I think um, uh, I cannot emphasize enough the role of pediatricians here. It is subclinical, and nobody can speak to this as eloquently as you would. I have had some of the best sort of explanations on the issue as I have learned this issue over the years from pediatricians in this space who have been looking at this issue. And I think because it's subclinical, people don't understand what it is. Research can only get you so far in terms of this is the global evidence. But when pediatricians talk about the cases in their area of work that are presented to them and the impact on children and what it is doing to the child, to the life of the child, to the earning and learning potential of that child in the future, that becomes a much more real. So I think pediatricians raising the voice on this issue is absolutely critical, talking about this issue publicly, that everybody sees, infectious diseases, NCDs in children. Yeah, we can speak about all of the symptoms, but this is something that nobody sees. And that's where pediatricians are the ones that can speak the best at it. And I think that can move, I think those kinds of things can move, of course, families, but can move communities and policymakers at the same time.
Thank you. We will do that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I think that unfortunately we have run out of time. Ruth, for more questions. I think we want to sincerely thank our speakers for their valuable presentations and our audience for the active participation. Thank you very much. And I give you, Ruth, the floor to close this session. Ruth?
Thank you, Stella, and a huge to our formidable speakers. They really did a great job of not only about the clinician experience, but more importantly, I think about how clinicians can leverage their government leaders to take action on a global level. And I invite anyone on this call with us because it takes our governmental leaders. And so we invite you to work together with all of us to achieve this auspicious goal of eliminating childhood lead poisoning in the next 15 years. Thank you so much. and we look forward to working together.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Ruth ma'am.
Thank you to all the panelists and the moderators and all the participants to attend the webinar. To obtain the participation certificates, all the panelists required to fill the feedback form, which you will receive when you close the session. You will get an option of give feedback. Kindly click on that and help us to improve more. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.